working with coaches, as coaches, we are working with this model. We are understanding that the conditioning field within which our clients have been conditioned, their thoughts, their beliefs, their patterns, their habits, their openness in their chart, their experiences in the world, how those have created a filter, if you will, a narrative. And that narrative is really what's influencing what they choose to create out of the quantum field, what they're dropping into, dropping from a state of potentiality into a state of actuality. And we know from quantum physics that really, literally, there's very little that we do physically that influences the ultimate outcome. It's all about shifting and changing frequencies of energy. How do we work with our clients to help them maximize what they manifest? Now, this is where I want to break this down a little bit more, because why using quantum human design as a tool helps your clients craft a narrative, if you will, a story that changes their point of attraction, that in that model that puts the narrative they tell about who they are, that when you shift that narrative, it changes the point of attraction. It changes what your clients can be creating in the world. Here's where it gets interesting with human design. First of all, the human design is a mechanical model. It tells us the mechanics of how we interact with the material world. It is the transformer, if you will, between the cosmic self and the human story, or the cosmic self through the human story, the interface between the cosmic self and the material world. It is a story, a narrative. Human design itself is just a collection of archetypes. The way I teach my students, I tell my students, it is a Rolodex, if you will, of all the archetypes in the human experience. So if you break that system down, human design down, and you start to look at it as a collection of potential archetypes in the human story, we have type, we have the lines of the profiles, we have the archetypes of the centers, we have the archetypes of the gates on the centers, we have the archetypes of the channels, we have the archetypes of the different themes of the different circuits. These are all archetypes. They're all parts, if you will, of a potential story. Okay, so any one of us, when we look at our chart, this chart isn't telling you this is who you are. And I really want to invite us to really sit with that, because that kind of implies that there's a very static component to the chart, right? This is who you are. And the reality is, this is not who you are, okay? This is the interface. This is how I like to teach it, this is the soul curriculum, if you will, that you are exploring in a dynamic way through the lens of your life. An archetype, if you really understand an archetype, is a spectrum of potential, right? So if I say the word hermit, and you all think about the word hermit for a minute, when I say the word hermit, we have, between each and every one of us, based on our conditioning and our understanding what books we've read, we'll have a different idea of what a hermit is. So for some of us, we might have an expression of the hermit archetype that's like the little old lady who lives on 10 acres of forest in the middle of the wilderness, who never comes out. Or maybe if you've read To Kill a Mockingbird, it's Boo Radley, right? The hermit that lived in, Boo Radley was the hermit that lived next door, right? That's one aspect of the hermit archetype. The other aspect of the hermit archetype could be somebody who really loves alone time, needs alone time, and never gets enough alone time, right? Who defies their own need for self-restoration and gives and gives and gives and gives. That is the other side, or maybe in some cases, a little bit of a shadow aspect of the hermit, as is, I think, living in the wilderness all by yourself in the middle of 10 acres and never coming out. Those are just different ways that archetype can be expressed. And ultimately, the goal of using human design as a coaching tool is to help people really explore what are the archetypes in that chart that are part of their curriculum. Now, everything in the chart is part of your curriculum. Okay? Everything in your chart, including the openness, is part of your curriculum. And this is again where we have some interesting vocabulary conversations in traditional human design. So, your curriculum is going to tell you, based on your definition and your openness, what are the themes that you're going to be consistently exploring, most importantly on the internal plane, through your own consistency, through your own access to a specific energy that you've been dealing with over the course of your whole life. Your definition is your theme. It's your curriculum. It's sourced within you. It's something you're always going to be carrying with you. And because it's within you, it's kind of an internal part of your curriculum. The openness in your chart is part of your curriculum that you're designed to explore through your relationships and and your experiences with others, right? Openness, because we have it, because you all have everything that's open in your chart, you still have it. Openness says there's a variety of different ways that I can experience this energy, and I experience it differently through the lens of whatever relationship I'm in. So if I'm with this person, I experience this energy this way. When I'm with this person, I experience this energy that way. In traditional human design, we call that the not self, right? The openness is the not self. And I think when we talk about that, especially when we're talking about that from coaching, that starts to become a very complex and sometimes difficult conversation that allows that makes it difficult for us to really support our clients. Because if I say to my client with the open sacral, oh, you have this archetype of the worker, the caretaker, the giver, from, that's the sacral, right? But you don't actually have that. And so now I'm telling him, oh, that's not a part of who you are. You should get rid of that part of yourself. Like, that doesn't even make sense, right? In this person's life. How am I supposed to not care? How am I supposed to not be engaged in this energy? I am a caregiver. I'm a caretaker. It's part of my design. It's part of my wisdom of my openness, right? So when we start calling them not the undefined spaces that are conditioned the not self, first of all, that causes us to deny a huge chunk of who we are. Secondly, it says, oh, well, I have this defined, therefore I'm always getting that part of myself right. That's who I am. And we forget that you can be a jerk through your definition. You can be very ineffective through your definition. You can totally live out the shadow of your definition. And that's not the not self. That's you not being aware of who you are and needing to reframe and understand yourself differently so you can make a different set of conscious choices around maximizing your potential and fulfilling the full possibility of your chart. So I think that when we start talking about how do we help our clients with mindset, how do we help give them self-awareness about their narrative, how do we help them reframe their narrative, and how do we use human design as a tool to do that, we have to go back to, we all have all of the chart. We all can be conditioned not only in our openness, but in our definition. And that conditioning can be things like, hey, you had, the gate 15, the gate of extremes and rhythm, which I also like to call the gate of compassion, right? You have no consistency in your rhythm. And let's say you're also a third line profile. And let's say you grew up with a fourth line parent who has the gate 5. And your whole life, even though you were designed to experiment and be in your creative flow, your parent said, nope, 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 nope. You got to pick one thing. You got to stick with it. And you have to do it every day at the same time because you've got to be patterned and rhythmic. And you learn to deny your definition. That's conditioning. And that means that your role through human design is to start exploring, oh, this is my definition. This is the energy that I have conscious access to, consistent access to. I can consciously choose to bring out this highest element of the archetypes in my chart.